Okay, today we're going to talk about percent. Like I said before, for most of you, it'll be a review. So percent, that symbol actually has a numerical value, meaning it actually equals to some number. Did you guys know that? That percent symbol actually means 1 over? Yes, 100 is correct. So this is a key. The word percent, it means hundreds or divided by hundreds. So percent just has a numerical value. If you think of it this way, it just means 1 over 100. Okay, you can kind of see it like, you know, you could see that as a fraction bar, kind of slanted thing, and 2 zeros. And we represent 2 zeros on the bottom. Okay, maybe that's how they come up with that symbol. But percent, it just means 1 over 100. If you understand it this way, it's really easy to do these percent problems. Okay, so write it down, and I'll wait here. Let's look at an example 1 here. It says express as fractions in simplest form. So let's do the first one together. Because we just said the percent means, right, it equals to some number really, right? When we say 36%, what does that mean? 36 out of 100 things, right? So we're going to write this as a fraction. 36, we know it means 36 out of 100 things, if there were 100 things. What if there were like, so then how would you change this into a fraction? Well, all you have to do is, remember when we have a number and a number next to it, what does that mean? It means it's to, yes sir, multiply. So 36 means, 36% means 36 times, anybody want to guess? We just talked about this. What does percent mean again? It equals to some number. Nor?
36 times, wait, 1 over 100?
Yeah, 36 times 1 over 100, that's all it means. And do we know how to write this as a fraction? Of course we do. It just means 36 is really what? 36 over?
100.
Yeah, 36 over 100 because it's 36 over 1 times 1 over 100. You guys are correct, right? So, should we leave it this way or simplify all the way? Okay, simplify. So you get 18 over 50, and then if you simplify further, you get 9 over 25. Okay? Any question? Let me move this down so you could see this whole thing. Okay, pretty straightforward here. All right, then why don't you try? Whoops, try to hide the answer. Why don't you try the second one yourself? 180%. Can you have percent that is more than 100%? Yeah, you can. It's okay. What does 200% mean? That is really 2, right? It's 2 of whatever you're talking about. So you could have more than 100%. So don't be alarmed if you get something more than. But can you change it? This is 180%. So like if there were 100 things, you have 180 things. You know what I mean? But how would you write this as a percent? Fraction. Go ahead, everybody try. It shouldn't be too hard. Okay. So how many people wrote down 180 times 1 over 100 like this? Right? Very good. And it simply becomes, I can see that it's going to, 180 is really, as a fraction, 180 over 1, so it just becomes 180 over 100, right? So you could divide top and bottom by 10, and also top and bottom by what? What goes into, yeah, 2. And then you get, how many people got 9/5? Easy enough? All right, this one, even though it's a simple problem, many people mess up. Okay, 3 over 4%, I even highlighted this. Okay, 3 over 4%. The wrong answer that I get is, they tell me this is 75% or something like that. 75. Would the answer be 75?
No.
No, because if I just asked you, what's 3/4 as a percent? That's 75%, right? But 3/4% does not mean 75% or 75. Okay, 3/4% simply means 3 over 4 times, again,
100.
not 100. 1 over 100, okay, be careful. This will not give you 75. Go ahead, everybody finish, see what you get. Because they see 3/4, they just go, oh, that's 75. No. 3/4% is not 75. 3/4 is less than 1, isn't it? It's almost like less than, it's like kind of like 1%, that's what it means. It can't be 75, right? So, all right. Elisa, over here. What do you think? Over here. Yeah. Yeah, 3 over 400. That's what it means. Okay. So that's it. Okay, don't write 75. Right? Every time people see 3/4, they just kind of automatically think 75. Right? 3/4 by itself is 75%. Right? It's the other way around. But if I ask you 3 over 4%, right? This is less than 1%, right? All right. So then try this one here. What are you gonna do if you have a mixed fraction? Very straightforward. It's easy. 37.5%. Guess what we're going to do first, guys? You're going to change it to a improper fraction. Exactly. Go ahead, everybody finish up. Shouldn't take too long. Okay, how many people wrote down as 75 over 2 times 1 over 100? Raise your hand. Very good. Okay, so then, what does this simplify to? Dominic, what did you get? 75 over 200. Got it. And then at the very end, you didn't leave it that way, did you? What did you get at the very end? 3/8. How many people got 3/8? And how many people have a different answer? Because he is, I think, correct. Yeah, 3/8. Okay, so yeah, you get 70. So you could have written this as 75 over 200, but I cross cancel over here. The same thing, isn't that right? Because I'm multiplying these two fractions together. So I divided 75, 5 goes into 75 15 times, and then 100 20 times, and so forth. Same thing, you get 3/8 regardless, okay? All right, good. Now, let's go on to the second example. Now we're going to do the reverse. We're going to give you a number. You're going to now write as percent, right? Numbers like 25, right? I mean, numbers like 1/4. What would that be as a percent? 25%. Numbers like 1/2, 1 over 2. What's that in percent? Numbers like 1. What's that in percent? 100%. What about 2? What's that? Is 200%. Those are easy, right? But what if I give you numbers like 7/8? Okay. This is not so easy to come up with, right? By the way, do you think this is going to be more than 50% or less than 50%? A lot more, right? Because 7/8 is almost how many percent? 100%. Because if it was 8 over 8, right? That means 8 out of 8 things. That's 100%. But we now have 7/8, right? It's going to be a little bit less than 100%. We'll figure out what that is. Okay. So to do this, many of you may know different ways of doing this. I really want you to understand how to do this by translating this into an expression. So what we're asking is this. Write this down. What percent is 7/8? Isn't that what we're asking? Right? Basically. So I want you to understand, write this down underneath. When I ask you, write 7/8 as a percent, we're asking, what percent is 7/8? Would you not agree? And now all we're going to do is translate this into an equation and solve. And you say, wait a minute, how is that an equation? Well, it turns out, when I say what percent is, what does what mean in math, class?
Variable.
Zara, thank you for raising your hand.
X.
X. And what does percent mean? Class? 1 over 100. What does is mean?
Equals.
What does 7/8 mean? Okay, Nora, can you tell me what to write as an equation? Yeah, what do I write?
X times 1 over 100 is equal to 7.
That's right. That's basically, because what percent, when we say what, that's X, percent means some number. If an X and the number is right next to each other, it means multiplication, right? What percent, there it is, equals to 7/8. And do we know how to solve this simple equation? Right? It's a fractional equation, isn't it? You got a fraction. Easy enough. How do you solve for X? What do we do next? Here, we multiply both sides by Allah. What should we do to solve for X? We got X times 1 over 100 equals to 7/8.
X over 100 equals 7.
Yes, X over 100 equals to 7/8. Multiply both sides by 8. No, so you have this. You're right. This becomes X over 100 equals 7/8, right? So you have X 100 on the denominator of X. You just want to get X by itself, right? So you just multiply both sides by 100. Yeah. This time you don't have to worry about the LCD because we just want an X by itself. Does that make sense? Okay, so a lot of you are thinking 800 because you see 100 and 800. I mean 108, right? You don't need to multiply both sides by the LCD because all we're doing is just trying to get the X by itself, right? Does that make sense? Right. Okay. So of course, when you do that, go ahead, everybody finish up, see what you get. And Allah, you're right. You could actually multiply both sides by 800 to get rid of all the denominators and so forth and solve. It's the same way, but since you just have the X times 1 over 100, this time, because you just want X by itself, it's just easy. If you had some variables on the right side, then that's what you would do too. You know what I mean? If you have a variable on the left and right side, right? But here, you just have X by itself, right? So you just need to multiply both sides by 100. How many people got this? How about, who has the answer? Stephanie, what did you get as your answer? 175 over 2. Okay, how many people got that as the answer? Okay, so look, multiply both sides by 100. Doesn't 8 and 100 you could divide top, right? What goes into 8 and 100? They're both even, so 2, but also 4 goes in. So 175 over 2 is the correct answer. Easy enough? Does that make sense? So what have we found? What does this mean? Does this mean 7/8 equals to 175 over 2? Of course not, right? Of course not, right? 7/8 is not 175 over 2. 175 over 2 is like a lot bigger than 7/8, isn't it? Because 7/8 is less than 1. 175 over 2 is like really big, right? All right, so what does this mean? What have we found? Look at what we said. Who thinks they know what we just found here? Aleph, what have we found here? Okay, look at what we said. In the very beginning, what did we want to find? What percent is? 7/8. So guess what we found? Yeah, which represents? Yeah, as a what? Percent. So we found x, which is 175 over 2. Percent is what? Is 7/8. Does that make sense? Hello? Okay. So this is really, I could write this as a mixed number. 175 over 2 is 87.5, right? So we found that 87.5% is equal to 7/8. Does that make sense? Because 7/8, remember we talked about this. 7/8 is almost like 100%, isn't that right? We knew it was a little bit less than 100%. So what is it precisely? How many percent is 7/8? If you have 7/8 of something, how many percent is that, guys? 87.5%. That's what we found. Does this make sense? Okay. 7/8 does not equal to 175 over 2, does it? That doesn't make any sense. Right? But 7/8 does equal to 87.5%. Do you see what we're saying? Because we knew 7/8 was almost close to 100%, right? So as a percent, right, we knew that it was 87.5%. That's what we found. Okay? Does this make sense? What if I ask you this then? How would you change 6.9 as a percent? By the way, 6.9 is about how many percent? You could actually guess to me. About how many percent is 6.9, class? About 700%, right? 6.9 is almost 7, isn't that right? So if you have 7 of something, right, that's 700%, right? So the answer should come out around 700%. Does that make sense? So that's what we're doing. So what are we asking? Again, this just means what percent is what? 6.9. Is that what this is really asking you to do? So again, who knows how to change this into an equation? How about Jonathan? How would you write this as an equation?
For that one, I kind of already knew, so I just multiplied it by 100.
Okay, that's a shortcut. But the reason why I'm doing it this way is because later when we do some word problems involving percent, it's kind of be nice. Okay, but you're right. But why would you do that? It's because we're asking what percent is 6.9? What does what mean, class? Variable x. What does percent mean? 1 over 100. What does is mean? Equal to, what does 6.9 mean? 6.9. And as you see, do you see why we need to multiply both sides by x? I mean 100. Right? Okay, some of you know that you could, 6.9 is just multiplied by 100. Right? Some of you may know 7/8 as you divide it and then multiply by 100, right? But why do we do that? This is the reason why, right? Because you're really asking what percent is that number, right? And so you get x over 100 equals to 69 over 10, right? Multiply both sides by what? 100? What do we get? 690, correct? And that's about 700%, is that right? So does this mean 6.9 is equal to 690? No, it doesn't make any sense. 6.9 is way smaller than 690. But it does mean what? Because this is what it's asking. What percent is 6.9? We found what? So what's the answer? What percent is 6.9, guys? What percent is 6.9? 690%. That's what we found. 690% is, okay, 6.9. Maybe I should write this down here. So we found that 690% is 6.9. Okay, that's what we found. So what about this one? Yeah, 87.5% is 7/8. Right? That's what it means. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So that's how you change numbers to a percent. Right? Some of you are wondering why are we doing this? Right? It's this long way. Right? I just want you to know the algebraic process behind it. Right? When you change something into a number, you change it to a decimal and then multiply by 100. Right? Why do we do that? That was the reason. Okay. All right. But again, this is also helpful when we get problems like this. 48% is, 48% of 125 is what number? So I'm kind of getting ready for you to do problems like this. 48% of 125 is what number? Something like this, okay? Again, I want you to now translate this into an equation. And it turns out it gets really, really simple when you do. What does 48 mean in math? 48 is 48. What does percent mean in terms of a number? 100 over what? 1, right? So we're going to write that down. What does of mean in math usually? Of means multiplication. You guys remember translating this in? And what does 125 mean? 125. What does is mean? Equals to, what about what number? What's that? That's the variable. So it just translates to this simple equation. Isn't that nice? So whenever you get problems with percent or any other word problems, it's a nice skill to have in order if you know how to translate this into an equation easily. Okay? Does that make sense? And so do you see we get an equation 48 over 100 times 125 equals to x, right? This time all you have to do is multiply or simplify the number on the left and you're done, correct? Everybody try, see what you get. Okay. How many of you were able to simplify like this? I cancel some things out here. Okay, just basically get 48 over 100 times 125 over 1 equals to x. 100 and 125. What goes into 100 and 125? Yes? 25, right? 100. So 25 goes into 100 4 times, 125 5 times. How many people got x equals to 6? Raise your hand. Very good. Okay. I mean 60. Yeah, I said. You're right. 60. All right. So what have we found? Let's look at the problem. 48% of 125 is one number. What have we found here? At the end, you need to tell that this is a word problem, sort of, right? It's a very short word problem. So you have to write this as a sentence as well. What are you going to write? What does 60 represent? Kira?
The number is 60.
The number is 60, yes. And a little bit more precisely, what does that number represent?
X.
Right? But so, yeah, what does that 60?
48%.
48% of 125 is 60. That's what we found. Very good. So it turns out 48% of 125 is 60. It makes sense, right? 48% is about half, correct? Right? About half of 125 is about 60. That makes sense, doesn't it? Okay. It's a little bit less than half, but does that make sense? So whenever you do this percent problem, it should make sense, the answer, right? It does make sense that it comes out to be about 60, right? About half, a little bit less than half of 125. Are we okay? All right, let's move on. See if you could do the other one here. So take a look at example 4. They tweak a little bit, okay? It's not as the previous, but it's really simple as the other one. All you have to do is, as long as you translate this into an equation, it says 9 is 36% of what number? So it says 9 is 36% of what number is the question. And of course, I bet a lot of you know how to translate this now. Okay, this is a little bit, wait, is this the same exact kind of type? It is, okay. Oh no, this is different, isn't it? It's a little bit different than before. This time they're telling you, right, that 9 is 36% of some number, right? Okay, it's a little bit different. Go ahead, everybody translate this into an equation, okay, first, and see, and then we'll go from there. Okay? That's the important part. Once you can translate this into an equation, rest is really simple, okay? Go ahead, everybody try. How many people was able to translate this as 9 equals to 36 times, percent means 1 over 100 equal times x. How many people were able to do that? Very good. How many people have the answer to this? All right. Okay? So, Angie, what were you able to get with this? X equals 25. How many people got 25 as the answer? Okay. Let's see. She's right. So you get 36 over 100. Now, do you think it's best to simplify 36 over 100 as much as you can? Yeah, before you do anything, it's best if you could simplify something, right? Always simplify. I did that as 9 over 25, right? Because what goes into 36 and 100? 4, doesn't it? Okay. So, then all you have to do is to get x by itself, multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 9 over 25, right? Then that will just give you x on the right side. So it's just simply 25 over 9. And look what happens to 9? They cancel out. So what do you get as to x? 25. So what have we found? 9 is what? 36% of? 25. That's what we found. Easy enough? Okay. Let's look at example 5. It says what percent of 2 to 5 is 99? Now, as you can see, we're now tweaking these problems in a way. They're all different, right? They don't look, right? They're just kind of, they're asking, the unknown is sort of different each time. So it says what percent of 225 is 99? Again, if you could translate this into an equation, it's very simple, right? So, who could tell me what to write? How about Nor?
X
Mm-hmm.
times 1 over 100
Mm-hmm.
times 225
Mm-hmm.
is equal to 9.
Very good. Isn't that simply this? What means x? Percent. So what x times percent 1 over 100. Of means multiplication. 2 to 5 equals to 99. Okay, go ahead. Do you all agree? Do you see how simple it becomes once you change it into an equation? You should all be able to solve this equation. Go ahead, everybody try. Okay, so I bet a lot of you got this. X times 1 over 100 times 125 equals 99. It's just simply x times 225 over 100 equals 99, right? Does anything go into 250, 25, and 100? 25. Okay. And so you get 9/4, don't you? So of course multiply both sides by the reciprocal just like before. The x comes out to be, well, 9 goes into 99. How many times? 11 times. The answer comes out to, class? X equals to 44, right? So therefore, 44% of 225 is 99. And as you can see, no matter which one they ask you for, right, as long as you translate into an equation, it's pretty simple to solve, correct? Right? So that's the idea, okay? Example 6, you don't have to write this down, but take a look at it. It says solve for x, and you have a bunch of decimals, right? 2.8x equals to 12.6 plus 0.7x. Whenever you have sort of decimals like this, I think we talked about this before. What can you do so that you could get rid of all the decimals? Multiply both sides by?
10.
This time 10, right? Because the decimal place goes up to 10th place. What if we went up to 100th place? What are you going to multiply both sides by? Yeah, so because when you multiply by 10, look what happens. It just simply becomes a simple equation. Like I said, you don't have to write this down, but on your homework tonight, you're going to have some decimals, right? Right? When we have decimals, right, you could just multiply both sides by whatever the decimal place goes up to. Multiply both sides by it, and you get a very nice equation. Okay? And this turns out to be 6. But don't worry about that too much, right? Just know how to do that, right? Because you're going to get questions like this. Let's do a last problem, okay? Here's a question. Example 7. A dealer pays $5,500 for a car. So that's how much they get their car from, like, right? These car companies. Does that make sense? And of course, are you going to sell your car with the same amount of money that you pay for? No, then you can't really maintain, right? Your business won't. So, and they want to make profit of 15% off of this. Does that make sense? Now the question is, what should be the selling price? Does this make sense? And to figure this out, we're going to need, be able to come up with an equation. Okay, so a dealer pays $5,500 for a car. That's pretty cheap. I don't think they even, like maybe motorcycles nowadays. But okay, let's say they did. Okay, and they want to make a profit of 15%. Now, let's think about this for a second. What should be the selling price? How many people think the selling price should be more than 5,500? Raise your hand. Okay, how many people think it's going to be less than 5,500? The selling price of the car? No. It'll be more, right? Because if you want to make profit, right, you're going to have to, right, get more money than 5,500. Now, what is your unknown right now? In there?
The selling price?
The selling price is correct. Okay. Now you could let your X to be the selling price of the car. If you do it that way, it could be a little bit hard. So what you could do is let X to be what? Anybody see what? Yes. Yeah, let X be 15% off 5,500. If you do that, then what's your selling price? What should your selling price be? Let's say that you figure out that whatever 15% of 550 was. What is going to be your selling price? What do you have to do with that money? The 15% of 5,500, what do you have to do with that? What is going to be your selling price, in other words? Class? What do you think? So let's say that we found 15% off 5,500. Kira, what are you going to have to do with that?
Add it to the original.
Yeah, add it to the original price, because that's the money that you want to make, right? You want to make 15% of this price, so you have to add that to the original price of the car. So do we know how to figure out 15% of 5,500? Yes, we do. Is that our answer? No, what do you have to do with that money? You have to, as Kira said, you have to add that to the original price. So let's figure out step one. I wrote stage, I don't know why. Step one, let X to be the profit, right? That's the profit that this person is going to make. What is X going to be?
Profit.
Yes, and how are you going to write that as an equation? 15% off? What is it, class? 15% off? Yeah, so profit is 15% off 5,500.
X.
Yeah, good. So we know how to translate this into an equation. Who could tell me? How about, by the way, this X is not the final answer, is it? Thomas, what are you going to write?
X is equal to 15 over 100 times 5500.
Exactly. Okay. There you go. Go ahead. Everybody tell me what X is. Okay, how many of you got 825? Very good. So that's the profit the dealer is going to make. Now, are you going to sell your car for $825? Please don't do that, because then you're gonna be sell a lot of cars, but you're not gonna make much money, right? You're gonna be out of business very soon, because that's the profit you want to make. So because they say what should be the selling price, what are you going to do next? We talked about this. You're going to add this to 5,000. Yeah. To get the selling price, you have to add these together, right? The profit and then the price of the car. The answer comes out to be 6,325. That makes sense, right? So you better sell your car by $6,325. Otherwise, you will not be making 15% profit, right? So here's the answer. The selling price should be 6,325. Okay, please don't forget that last step. Okay, the answer gotta make sense, right? If they're asking you to figure out how much you gotta sell the car for, don't write down $825. Do you understand? Okay. So, good. Any question? Okay, good.